right, well, good afternoon or good evening, and welcome to the second in a series of several talks in a forum titled Path to Peace, Kosovo-Kansas Web Forum. I'm the director of the Center for Rationalist European and Eurasian Studies, Dr. Ivanovic. CREES put together this wonderful event that was sponsored from a grant by the Public Education for Peace Building Support Initiative of the United States Institute of Peace. This fund enables CREES to host a weekly web forum throughout the February, where we can listen to the talks and expertise of experts from the Balkans region and from Fort Leavenworth, who share their firsthand experiences and knowledge of Kosovo's path to independence. I would also like to thank a number of other sponsors and contributors to this forum, including Democracy for Development Institute, an NGO in Pristina, Kosovo, Institute for Military History and Security Studies program at Kansas State University, Foreign Military Studies Office at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas Cultural Knowledge Consortium, CKC, at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and Center for Global and International Studies. Before I introduce today's speaker, I would like to extend my thanks to the staff of CREES, particularly Adrian Landry and Bart Redford, without whose effort we would not have been able to enjoy these talks. And today's speaker is Oliver Ivanovic, who throughout his life has been a very active member of Kosovo's community. Up until 1999, he was a businessman and a sportsman. During and after the war, he devoted his life to politics in Kosovo. Since beginning of his political life, he has held numerous high-level positions. For example, from 2001 to 2007, he was a member of the Parliament for Kosovo's Provisional Institutions of Self-Government and a member of the Assembly's chairmanship. From 2002 to 2012, he was the State Secretary of the Ministry for the Republic of Serbia for Kosovo and Metohija. Mr. Ivanovic will speak today about the domestic politics shaping interethnic relations in Kosovo, as well as give his own perspective on the challenges that Kosovo faces today, Kosovo's future. So please welcome Oliver Ivanovic.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will try to give you, let's say, some views from Kosovo, but mainly Serbian views from Kosovo. You had already one speaker, which is Albanian one, and our views sometimes differ so much. We have so many differences in practically speaking, but we have so many different political views, what is supposed to be a future of Kosovo, and due to that, we have the daily clashes, political clashes. Thanks God we have no anymore the physical clashes how we used to have in the 1998, 1999, and later on. The Serbs are the small part of the Kosovo community. We are only about 110,000 out of 1.5 million of the total. What's the total number of the citizens living in Kosovo? Serbia and Serbs are considering part of Kosovo part of Serbia due to our constitution. And not to underestimate, it's very emotional thing, very important thing for our ethnical identity. All what we know about ourselves is somehow linked with Kosovo. We have no so much written documents from our history. We have more or less verbal documents and narratives, which are all divided in a couple of chapters. All chapters we have in our history are linked with Kosovo. We have the pre-Kosovo epic poetry chapter. We have the Kosovo battle themselves, a very specific chapter, and we have all from the 14th century till today calling the after Kosovo battle. Serbs are a very small part of that community, but still we are a very important part, because the political stability or instability, if you wish, cannot be created unless we have two, Albanian and Serbs, agreed or disagreed about certain things. Serb community is divided on two pieces, north of river, and you can see some of the maps, just which are clearly showing where the Serb community is red, it's concentrated. In this part, north part, you have some 50,000 Serbs living in 4 municipalities. The rest of Serbs are dispersed around of Kosovo, and just in Štrpce, a small municipality in south, you can see that are the Serbs living in a bigger number, concentrated and in a compact territory. The Serbs, being very important, from that point of view, are supposed to have the united position and somehow homogenized position, but unfortunately that's not happening. Sensitivity of the issue, since long time ago, when I say long time ago, it's hundreds of years or even more, is exactly making very interesting for the whole political parties in Serbia proper to take care about Kosovo issue. And now today, but also in the future, you will never have an at all significant political party in Serbia which is not dealing with Kosovo and which is not putting the Kosovo to the high level of priority in his political agenda. By being like that, the Serb political parties start looking for, the specific representatives of the Serbs in Kosovo themselves, trying just to portray the political party they are representing like a single one taking care about Kosovo. All these things is telling you how much important is, Kosovo for the Serbs living in Serbia and also living in Kosovo, but also living for the whole Serbs living, doesn't matter, are they living in the United States, Canada, Australia, or elsewhere in the Europe. This kind of disunity among the Serbs is also geographically motivated sometimes. You can see the compact territory of Serbs in territory in the north, which is inhabited with 50,000 of Serbs, but also in the south of river, this is a green territory. There are some, let's say, 60,000 Serbs, that means more than in the north, living in that part. But they're disunited. This kind of the disunity is also, or differences are on those which accepted to live with Kosovo independency. That doesn't mean they are recognizing Kosovo independency, but they have to live with that. And those people are mainly living in the south. Those people are mainly participating in the election organized by the Kosovo institutions and also participating in the Kosovo Assembly, Kosovo government, and all other institutions. This kind of the disagreement or different views are causing a lot of tension among the Serbs in the north and Serbs in the south. This is exactly the reason why we cannot articulate our political position, and in that way we are not really serious partner, neither for Kosovo Albanians in the institutions nor for Belgrade, official capital of all Serbs, and Serbian government. Even we are not for the international community, which is very much presented in a daily life in Kosovo. These things are important to know because you will probably see that some Serbs are participating in institutions, and they are very weak in these institutions because they have no full support of the Serbian population. And due to that, we have some Serbs participating in the Serbian institutions in Kosovo. The Albanians are calling those institutions parallel institutions, but still they are the most trusted institutions from the Serbian community. Pretty complicated situation. When you add, the international community, which is representatives are coming, and changing quite quick. They are not able to understand what's going on, but they are very often, immediately after they realize complexity of the situation, they are simply leaving the place, going to the other mission, and leaving us with our troubles. The Serbs in Kosovo, but in particular those in the north, have a very specific mentality. This is some kind of the surviving mentality. Those Serbs, North Serbs, organized themselves in the 1999. They didn't let Albanians to expel them, how that Albanians did to the Serbs living in surrounding municipalities, Vučitrn, Srbica, 50,000 Serbs living, but now it's only half of that. This kind of the defense, self-defense, civilian resistance made, that people develop some kind of the surviving mentality. and that is making them pretty influential, and pretty, let's say, well organized. Although we are not happy with the level of security on the streets and daily security. Recently, after the unilateral declaration, some countries did recognize Kosovo. That's more than 1995. Somebody claim even more, but the Serbia will not recognize. By not recognizing, Serbia is making that some big powers, and the permanent member of the Security Council will stick to that, and they will not accept Kosovo to be part of the United Nations. By not being part of the United Nations, Kosovo cannot be a member of any serious political organization. That means that this recognition and this very numerous number of the recognition coming, from the Europe countries, but also from the world, are not enough good to satisfy the Albanian ambitions. Serbs are afraid of this independency, and no need to explain and no need to underline, but there is a huge mistrust among the Serb community, Albanian community. We used to have our common history, and that common history is making us be very cautious, both sides. However, we have the dialogue, and Albanian Prime Minister Hashim Thaci started in the negotiation with his Serbian counterpart Ivica Dačić. That's a very high level, meeting, and this kind of the negotiations is bringing just a very modest fruit, if I may say. Very few agreements. Even those agreements are very small number. They are not really qualitatively good. They're made, because the lack of knowledge of what we really need. Both sides have been entering in the negotiations under the certain pressure. Serbia entered in the negotiations because of the Serbian ambitions to become a EU member, and before that to open the negotiation process. One of the conditions is to establish some kind of the relationship, not necessarily any kind of the indirect recognition, but it's just communication with the Kosovo institution. Kosovo have been pressed. Kosovo Albanians, mainly the leading persons in the Kosovo institutions, have been pressed to enter in this kind of the negotiation because the international community asked them to do that. They do not feel necessity to have such negotiations. The international community has its own goals. International community wants to keep some kind of to maintain the peace, to keep the let's say some kind of the frozen conflict, and to make possible to reduce the number of the international staff present in Kosovo. Kosovo troops, NATO troops, are some 6,000 soldiers here. There is also additional 2,500 international staff and police, civilian staff and police, what makes really numerous mission in Europe. And that's something what is really making tired some European countries in particular, but even or some the countries in the world. They want to achieve some kind of the success. From my deep point of view, deeply, sincerely, I think that's already made a conclusion. The situation is calm. Let's reduce the number of the staff, and that's why the many in the international community are willing to have good description of the situation. They don't want to see this Kosovo issue to be discussed in the Security Council or elsewhere. But things are not resolved. Coming back to dialogue, this dialogue is good, however, because that's exactly the clear sign that two sides can sit and discuss, and suddenly at a certain moment they will agree about certain things. That's going to change the perception among the people, the perception in the both communities, Serb and Albanians, what I consider very, very good. What is wrong, if I may say, is that Serbs from Kosovo are not directly involved in these negotiations. I think it's wrong. Can explain these things have to be part of the negotiation team, mainly the Belgrade team, but also what is important. Okay, I cannot see the picture anymore. Yeah. It's important to have the Serbs engaged, because that's the good way to make them improve his political capacity. They will grow up with the decisions and with some agreements, and what is even more important, they will be part of implementation. Now, for now, the Serbs are not engaged, partly because they simply don't want to take responsibility in the very sensitive momentum. And the Belgrade wants to make these things in speed, to do this agreement in fast, because they are pressed by some deadlines. Deadlines are the mid-March or end of March, when the European Commission is supposed to make the first official proposal to the country member state of the European Union, which are supposed to agree to open the negotiation process with Serbia. That's a great importance to Serbia. That's one of the main priority to the Serbia. But in the same time, I think this kind of the agreements and this sensitivity of the issue is not giving the chance to make very fast agreements. But however, we will run toward this kind of the agreements. Hopefully, we are going to have some kind of let's say, opening of the negotiation process, which will be very much helpful for Serbia to stabilize themselves, to turn, on the very important priorities like fighting the organized crime and corruption, to strengthen the institutions, and also to create a better political and economical environment for the foreign investment. That's the crucial importance for the Serbia, but that is supposed to be the crucial importance for the Albanians. Albanians in Kosovo are still, very silent about of the necessity. They are speaking mostly, about of the international suggestion or persuade, however you want, of the Kosovo institutions to be part of that, and they are entering in the dialogue mainly to please his international partners. That's not good, because that's making a perception on the on the local public opinion here in Kosovo that is something behind that they can maybe lose. That's why the many people have a feeling they will maybe lose from this kind of the negotiation. There are many political games behind too. I have to say that why the Kosovo Serbs are not part of the dialogue, that's also there is a reason. And one of the reasons is they want simply to play the game. The ruling coalition parties and his representatives on the ground, they are simply, they do not need to have even his own party member from Kosovo to interfere, because they want to have the whole process under control. The opposition parties are not entering in the dialogue team simply because they feel much better and much more comfortable to attack the government, and that's why they do not want to share the responsibility. These things are, good for the political games, but bad, how to say, for the general issue, because in this way we are not going to have the very good and very, let's say, solid negotiation process and some kind of the conclusions. Anyhow, the many Serbs in Kosovo his priority is exactly a physical security. The people in Kosovo, Serbs in particular, feel very unsafe and insecure. We have so many incidents, which are, many of them are still, the police didn't discover who are the perpetrators. If the perpetrators are not caught and punished, simply they are encouraged to repeat the same thing. There is a lot of harassment, a lot of, let's say, violence against those Serbs which want to return in his own flats or homes. And even the initial activities to reconstruct the houses sometimes is causing a lot of, let's say, negative tension, and sometimes incidents which are supposed to discourage the Serb returnees to get back. The problem, which we are facing on a daily basis is this kind of the legal insecurity. The many Serbs, that's about 90,000 of cases, are in trial, or the trials didn't start yet. It's about the property issue, but very few of those cases are resolved. Very few, I rather dozen, not even hundreds of these issues. All these things are creating some kind of the economical uncertainty. There is no working place. I have to mention that with this moment that we have separate our life. The Albanian, let's say, institution which is taking care about unemployment has registered 350,000, unemployed young Albanian. Bear in mind that there is a 1.5 unemployed young Albanians. The almost non-existing the Kosovo economy might be absorbed 3 to 5,000 of the young people. That's not enough. In other hand, we have the Serb let's say, institution which is dealing with the issue has registered 27,000 out of 110,000 existing Serbs. 27,000 are non-employed. The Serbs also have very few possibility to find a job. That's why many of those people are simply leaving the place, going to the Western countries or going to to Serbia proper and trying to find a job. That's how the issue of the refugees in the Western countries is created. And now the many Western countries are very unhappy because that they don't want to see the refugees, what is in a contradiction with the description of the situation given by his diplomats living on spots in Kosovo. They are saying Kosovo is calm and peaceful, everything is stabilized, but they still have in his countries they are receiving, day by day they are receiving the refugees which are seeking asylum. This kind of the situation is causing the migration, which is mainly economically not motivated, but still that's happening, and there is no solution for this issue. I consider the dialogue like a very important tool and a very important way to keep the stability, peace and stability. I would prefer to hear from my fellows in my government in Belgrade, but the same from the government in Pristina. I would prefer to hear them say there is an unlimited dialogue. There is every topic can be topic for discussion, no time limitation. That's the only way to relax both sides and make both sides equally interested for this kind of the dialogue. Otherwise, if there is a limitation, then one side is always taking a benefit from limited period of time, which is ahead. What's also important, I would prefer to have this kind of this joint commitment, to resolve the whole disputed issues, including the most sensitive one, it's about of the status. But Albanians are claiming they have independence. They do not see interest to discuss the issue, although they are aware of the limitation of this of the such self-proclaimed independence, which Serbia is not going to recognize. I would be very happy, and I would really appreciate if the both governments will commit themselves to fight organized crime, because we are targeted by the organized crime from the Middle East, from the rest of the Balkan countries, but also from the other sides. Simply, it's a nice place, to develop such initiatives which are illegal and affecting the daily life of the people. What I would, I would appreciate if the both governments commit themselves for the joint infrastructural projects. A part of the political stability, legal security, and physical security, the infrastructure is the third condition which is supposed to be met. If anyone want to hope and keep the figure crossed that some investors will come. No investment, no employment. No employment. We are going to have the social unrest in Kosovo, but also in the Balkan. If you have a social unrest, you can suddenly have a political unrest. That's how we are entering some kind of the vicious circles. These are the things which have to be our priority. That's the single way how we can increase our economical cooperation. Because I have to say, fortunately or unfortunately, just the business people are cooperating to each other. There is also the other field are the NGO sector, which is not very much influential. And third sector, which is the most dangerous, is exactly the criminal activities of the both community members of the both communities. That works without any limitation, and they have no problem with the political issue. Simply they are cooperating for the sake of his own interest, which is not the interest of the majority in the population. However, I'm just hoping that this economical cooperation will be deepened, because I told you that's of great importance. I'm just hoping that there will be some cultural exchange, because we don't know about each other. That's ridiculous, but we are living side by side since beginning of the 20th century, or even before, long time before. But since we are aware about of differences, we start clashing each other. But we never try till today to start learning something about each other. That's about a culture, that's about history, which is totally different, about same things we are thinking different. That's also about some of our habits, which are not so different, by the way. We are living so long with each other, that means we have many things in common. However, before these things happen, I'm underlining the economical cooperation is the single thing we can catch. However, we have to prepare ourselves and prepare the public opinion to have some kind of the reconciliation. Before the reconciliation really happened, we have to have the trials against our compatriots, which make how to say, they made any bad against the Albanians. The same like Albanians have to start trial against the Albanian perpetrator which did commit the crime against the Serbs. Serbia had already a few big trials, and the people have been sentenced on a long-lasting in jail, prison, but till now we have no such a trial in the Albanian side. That's a clear message that leadership and community is not ready to tolerate the violence. If that happens soon, we can have maybe the more incentive, let's say, to start dealing with the issue of the missing person. Missing people are let's say 2,800 yet, and it's important for the reconciliation to discover what happened with those people, and suddenly to bring the remains to the family, because that's the only way how we can make the people start thinking about the future. On the end of the day, I just expect that we have to declare, and the end of the day, when these first two phases will be over, we are going to have the both sides, how to say, amnesty. This is the very important issue, because as long as you have the perpetrators on freedom, there is not enough proof for them, to be sentenced, to be brought to the court. Would be good, to kick out from his hand this kind of the fear, because if there is a fear, they will try to homogenize the community against the other communities. And that's the way how to hide themselves. However, we have many things in common, including that this kind of the European perspective, and Serbia and also the Kosovo Albanians are seeking the Europe membership, thinking about of the standards of life, thinking about of the quality of life, and these things are suddenly attracting the people to think to fulfill the needs and to fulfill the conditions which are supposed to be met just to become a full-fledged member of the Europe Union. That's not going to be easy, in particular not for the Kosovo Albanians, because of the unclear his status and the many other things. But however, I think that the international community have to be very much open-minded and try to assist both the Serbia and Kosovo Albanians, improving a little bit step by step our life, and making us ready at a certain moment to sit and discuss the all remaining disputed issues. This is something what I'm hoping, and because otherwise, that could cause a huge frustration in one or another side, and the frustration is not really good ground, to build up the future. I think frustration with Kosovo issue could be a big trouble in Serbia, but the same is more or less among the Albanians. That's why we need one new round of negotiations. When and where and how, that's another question. I would not push for that. I think that we should have the more patient. We should be ready for that thing. We need a political elite with a strong support, very inventive, and a political elite in both sides with a vision, which could think more seriously about very inventive solution, which is not be neither the Kosovo independency, like the Albanians are just expecting, or nor that the Kosovo part of Serbia autonomy, like it was, which the Serbs are waiting for. That's how I would finish this my presentation, and hoping for the EU presidency much more, for increasing the weight and let's say capacity of the EU presidency here, which can help us both, not just politically but also economically. Everything is in economy. If we will have any kind of economical improvement here, that could make possible and more relaxed discussion about sensitive political issue. Thank you. I'm waiting suddenly for your question if you have any.
Stand by, sir, while we get some questions. Go ahead, Bart.
Mr. Ivanovic, if I'm on. My name is Bart River. I'm at the University of Kansas with the Center for Russian, East European, and Eurasian Studies. I want to thank you, first of all, for your very straightforward, frank talk. It's given a lot of different issues for us all to think about. I am going to be handling the question and answer from University of Kansas. We actually have a classroom here, and then we also have a classroom of security studies students at Kansas State University. And so students here at Kansas, I'll be asking them to step forward, and you'll actually hear questions directly from the students. And then I'll also try to entertain questions from those who are out there, guests online. And if those people could just enter their questions online, I'll read them off as I get them. Do we have any questions here? It looks like we have a student. I'll ask her to come up and give a question.
Hi, Mr. Ivanovic. My name is Sandra, and I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to Tomislav Nikolic's platform, Kosovo Europa, and if that's jeopardizing Serbia's actual membership in the EU, or the possibility of Serbia's membership in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I answer one by one, or I should wait, collect all?
Please do go ahead, and we'll take the questions one by one.
Okay. Mr. Nikolic said what the previous president or every single person in the Serbian leadership, will tell you. First of all, the Kosovo is a very sensitive issue, and I try to describe it, and there is another thing which I didn't mention in my previous presentation. That's our constitution, which is clearly saying that Kosovo is part of Serbia. There will not be changing about that. If any political party or any individual or any movement want to change the constitution in the way to cut off the Kosovo from our constitution, from the rest of Serbia, they should just start that initiative. But my impression is there is no such a stupid politician who will do that thing, because they are going to be politically dead, immediately after. I'm speaking about sensitivity, and I'm speaking about of the feelings which are important. I know that the western part of the world have no so much place for emotions, and I'm not the man who I'm visiting. I'm visiting the western, countries, and I got used with your approach, but still I have to tell you that emotions cannot be neglected. That's a very strong emotion. Kosovo and EU means we will fulfill that all Kosovo, all European standards which are required, to be full-fledged member of the EU, a part of one. If anyone would ask us to quit with Kosovo, to give up the Kosovo for like a blackmail or let's say contract, like a condition, that's not going to happen. So the European Union made it twice already to integrate the unresolved territorial disputes. That is that Ireland, and that's the same thing with Cyprus. And I'm suggesting the Cyprus model, to be honest, because I think that Cyprus is such a small piece of land, such a small island in the middle of the sea, and they cannot cause the trouble for the Europe at all. It's a few hundred of thousand people, but they are fighting about that. They are trying to find a solution for the last 40 years. Only today, after the EU, the Cyprus become a full member of the EU, there are some chances they can maybe find the solution, which is going to be sustainable solution suddenly, and also the solution which can be how to say acceptable for the all sides engaged. Why today? Because today they simply can how to say, they have something to lose. If the Cyprus, like whole, is a member of the EU, but on the northern part of Cyprus, the EU legislation is not implemented, it's not applying. The same can happen in our case. That Serbia with Kosovo could be a EU member with a good chances to improve the possibility that we can find some kind of the common ground. Not to underestimate, when I mentioned that Cyprus is a small country, I wanted to underline once again the stability of Europe depends pretty much on stability of the Balkan. And the Balkan stability, you can look to the history. I'm not a big fan of history, but I'm reading carefully the messages from the past. And that one of the messages says that if the Serbia is not stabilized, there is no stability in the Balkan. And my fear is that I would be part of the, let's say, some kind of the conflict process if there will not be, if the Serbia will not a high ride toward the EU. That's important not to keep the Serbia in limbo, because that could cause some other, the forces in Serbia to start thinking about the past rather not to think about the future. And that's the big threat for the Serbia themselves, first of all, but also big threat for the whole Balkan. Due to that, I think that Serbia can meet the other criteria and easily can get the EU membership in the 7 to 8 years, maybe 10. But however, that there is some kind of the enlargement fatigue in Europe. That's the main problem for Serbia, not the others. I hope that I answer on your question.
Thank you, Mr. Ivanovic. Our next question actually comes online, and I think you can probably see it in your monitor. I'm trying to read it in my monitor. I can't quite see the extent of it, but it comes from Mark Wilcox, who's asking, what is your assessment of the recent events in Kosovo?
Yeah, I see that. I will try. I understand what the point is. Preševo Valley are the two municipalities which are inhabited by the Albanians. In Bujanovac, there is about 65% Albanians and 35 Serbs. In Preševo is it's more or less, the same. However, that's very, let's say, small part of South Serbia, which is in a very strategically important place, close to the highway, and that's why it's so important. But also they are on the boundary line between Kosovo, Eastern Kosovo, and Serbia. The Albanians in this part of the South Serbia are, used to be in the how to say, on the scene in the 2001 with some kind of the rebellion, revolution on that time. But Serbia, democratic Serbia, after democratic changing in Serbia 2000, act in totally different way than Milosevic regime. They include even international community, but they try to adopt another approach, trying to establish the regular communication with Albanians in Preševo. And this is very poor part of Serbia, to be honest, we have to admit that, but all Serbia has the economical difficulty. What the Albanians are looking for is they need more attention, and that's rightfully asking. They are rightfully asking for that. They're the minority with very specific needs, and that those needs have to be met. When I say the same, they need the needs of they need let's say schools, secondary schools. They have already secondary schools, but the university faculty on the Albanian language. They need more economical possibilities, or let's say employment possibilities, and need some kind of the infrastructural project. And they are part of the some kind of the process which is already in place in this part of area. Serbia have been established that some kind of the so-called coordinating center for South Serbia, which worked pretty good in the past, but in the recent past, again, Serbia have been dealing with own problems, and they didn't pay enough and attention to this part of area. Recently, everything will have been underlined again, reopened, because the the Albanians in Preševo and Bujanovac, they established the monument for those, which died during the fight in 2000, 2001. But many of them have been declared a criminal, and these activities are activities against the ministry, against the police and army. What simply the Serb community and the Serb government, the Serb perceive that like a offense, and that's why this monument have been removed. Practically speaking, that's because of that kind of the bad feeling, but legally speaking, this kind of the monument have been illegally established without a license permission, which is supposed to be given by the authorities. However, this is removed, and Albanians try to bring attention. They realize that Kosovo is again on the spot, and the Kosovo delegation is speaking with Serbia, and they just have been hoping that his issue will be somehow incorporated in this kind of the dialogue agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Ivanovic. Our next question is from our classroom here at University of Kansas.
Sir, I have two questions. One, the Serbs in the north, are they paying taxes to the government in Pristina? And two, the creation of a Kosovo military. I'm interested to know if ethnic Serbs are now serving in that military. Thank you.
The Serbs in the north are not paying to Pristina these taxes, except if they are caught on the border. It is in a manner that they have the goods which are supposed to be taxated, because many of the goods are not taxated yet. There is a dialogue, there is a process of negotiations about this taxation. The Serbs have to be, protected by the double taxation, because the Serbs are released in Serbia proper from these taxes, and they're supposed to pay the taxes here in Kosovo. But because of this kind of political dispute, we are not still taxated with those goods are not taxated. I think that's not sustainable in the long run, and we should soon have this kind of the taxation. Now there is the discussion about where this money, which is going to be collected in that way, where that money is going to be sent to Pristina or to the special fund, which is there is a plan, there is idea to establish a very special fund, which is going to be managed by the EU, in which this money will come. This money should be used for the economical infrastructural projects in the north. But before that happened, we have to have still one or more round of dialogue in Brussels. And finally, I just hope that they will come up with some kind of the conclusion, which will be clearly defining where and how much we are going to be to pay the taxes. About the second question, the Serbs are not the members. At least I don't know for any significant number of the Serbs taking part in KSF, Kosovo Security Forces. That's not really defense forces, but it's more, let's say, engineering and this kind of the forces. And I just, I'm very much concerned because of the voices I heard recently that Kosovo defense members and leaders, Kosovo Security Forces leaders are claiming they are going to develop, to upgrade these forces in 2000, that there is about 2,500 military soldiers, whatever, to become a Kosovo defense army, what could cause a lot of trouble. Any such any such a unit will cause a need to be defended from them. Don't lose from what I said recently. Don't forget what I said. There is a huge mistrust. Any armed unit will cause immediately armament in another side, what could be a dangerous. We need NATO for a pretty long time here, till the situation is somehow calm and stabilized, until we have the trust in the Kosovo institutions that can control his parts on the ground, because there is a lot of evidence how the institutions can be misused, and they have been in the past, to extend additional pressure over the Serbs. That's why we have no such a big mistrust. I hope just that we will find a solution without insisting on any kind of the military units, because the military cannot help us in this case.
Thank you, Mr. Ivanovic. I want to encourage our folks at Kansas State or elsewhere to go ahead and submit your questions online. I'm looking around. I don't see anybody with their... Well, I do actually see a couple of people with their hands raised. Coming up. Just one moment.
Hi, my name is Alisa, and I have a question about the state of human rights for the Serbian minority in Kosovo. And you spoke a little bit about some of the educational rights and some of the economic rights, but I was wondering, what is the current state of the entire multitude of human rights? If you look at cultural rights, for instance, the right to practice language and religion and things like that, as well as civil and political rights. What are the particularly strong areas of human rights, and what are some of the weaknesses that need improvement?
Thank you for that question. I wanted to avoid to speak about all bad things. I wanted just to speak generally, but thank you, because you are remind me on a very important issue. We have the really big problem with our applying our human rights and cultural rights. When I speak about human rights, I would just pay attention on our legal property rights. There is so many unresolved. It's about 90,000. It's more than 90% are the Serbs claiming back his property, and that's not happening. We have the courts here system, which is not really, how to say, they're not really doing well. They're not treating these cases. They're not trying to speed up the process. But from my point of view, that's something what will require a lot of international presence and international push that to happen. The legal rights and property rights is something what we are totally unhappy. But also we have the cases in which the Serbs have been attacked. There is no a single case, significant case. Among those, I will always mention the case that since 1999, we have so many killed and kidnapped people, but there is no trial in the court. In 2001, we have in 1999, it's in July, we have the 14 people killed, working on the field, just because they are Serbs. Someone came with machine gun and killed all of them. No perpetrator found. In the middle of the day, among the 45,000 of soldiers, that happened, no trial. In 2001, in February, we had a terroristic attack on the bus to the Vodujevo. 13 people got killed, and 28 or more have badly injured. No perpetrator. No one is declared guilty. Finally, we have the kids. In 2003, 4 kids badly injured. The two have been killed. All of them on the riverbank, just swimming. And somebody came with a AK-47. 2 perpetrators. Probably they shoot 75 bullets in the middle of the day. It's 12 o'clock. No perpetrator. Nobody wants to testify. Nobody wants to talk about that. That's something what's showing us that the Albanians have some kind of the conspiracy. They don't want to testify against anyone who did such a awful crime. About our culture and religion, you are probably witness, if you are following the issue in Kosovo, you read or you saw the issue of Dečani Monastery. The Supreme Court of Kosovo decided about 25 hectares of land to belong to, they confirmed just that land belonged to the monastery, but you have the demonstration organized by the municipality and by the war veterans and some other associations, by the political parties against the Supreme Court decision. They are just trying to frighten the Serb monks, because in Dečani there is no more Serbs. There are only the few monks in that monastery, to threaten them to just to leave or to give up this land, what is absolutely unacceptable. About the language, you cannot find the one single document which is properly translated in Serbian, although the constitution says that the whole documents have to be translated written in Albanian and Serbian and translated in English language. Not to mention that many of the places in Kosovo have changed names. Names are changed because there is a, if they keep the original name, that will be a sign because those names are the Serb toponyms. And that's why they wanted to avoid that they are changing and making sometimes very ridiculous, translation, but however, that's politically motivated. These are the things which are bothering the Serbs and making Serbs much more, feel unsafe, unsecure, and uncertain.
Hi, Mr. Ivanovic. I have another question. You talked a little bit about economic security and social unrest, and you also touched on the Constitution. And to my understanding, the Constitution was enforced in 2006 by Vojislav Koštunica and was not supported by, I think, all the parties and not the whole entire population. And isn't it true that since 2006, social unrest has risen and also swapped over into southern Serbia?
Okay, I will not, I cannot be, okay, I will put it in this way. 2006, Koštunica suggested in that constitution, which is on referendum accepted by the population with a huge majority, he just underlined something what is already existing, what used to be defined in the previous constitution. And he just tried to modernize constitution and use it to underline the issue of Kosovo. No secret. The Koštunica is putting, and his party is putting the Kosovo on the high priority on his political agenda. But the other parties are thinking that more or less the same. It's not so important are they putting the Kosovo on the priority number 2 or 3, but however that have to be on the first 3 priorities, from the all political parties. And you can see that Kosovo e Europa, how the previous, your colleague mentioned, that's the parola which was mentioned by Tadic. That was the same by Nikolic. That's the same by Koštunica. Who else exists in Serbia? Tell me. There are also a few other parties, but they are also repeating the same. Apart a small party which is presenting. There are some 5 to 6% of the Serbian electorate. Even that party, if they become, I'm speaking about Liberal Democratic Party, which is not so emotional toward Kosovo, but if they become the member of the ruling coalition. That would be they will change his mind. That's for sure. Because simply when you occupy the important position in the Serbian administration, you have to feel some kind of the historical responsibility, so common for everyone. If you let me just to say a couple of things about the future events, and the next week we are expecting to have the continuation of this kind of dialogue, in which our Prime Minister and Thaci will continue the dialogue. What I'm expecting, they will treat again the technical issue of energy and telecommunication, but there is no big space for maneuver, And what is also important, they will tackle the issue of the North. It's not really realistic to expect they will resolve the issue of the North. But I, being someone who lives in the north part of Kosovo, I will be more than happy, and I will really appreciate both if they will find at least a frame agreement and leave the rest for the future. Because we are heading toward some kind of the election which will take place in let's say 6 months or 9 months from now. The local elections. These elections are going to be called in the same time by Serbia and Kosovo, and technically these elections are going to organize implement the OSCE, the international organization, very important and very influential in this part.
Thank you very much. That actually makes a very nice segue into I want to thank you for your frank discussion today, and I want to remind folks that this discussion will continue. We'll be meeting again, same time, at 12 o'clock noon in Kansas, for a second part of discussion of Kosovo today, and this time we'll be hearing from Vjosa Ospani, who is a Kosovo Member of Parliament, and she'll be tackling some of these same subjects. So join us then.
Thank you.